Ed and Lorraine Warren are two of the most famous paranormal investigators in the world, and you probably know them from the movies The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2. But what many people do not know is that Ed and Lorraine Warren have a museum in their home in Connecticut, which is called the Warren's Occult Museum. The museum is the oldest and only museum of its kind, and in the museum can you find hundreds of horrifying objects from real Ed and Lorraine Warren cases. The African fertility dolls. On a shelf in the Occult Museum stand several African fertility dolls, which were used by a witch doctor in Africa that used them to practice black magic. An unknown person actually stole the dolls from the witch doctor, which in the end was a big mistake. The man who stole the dolls sent the dolls to a relative, in the hopes that his relative would be able to sell the dolls to a museum. But the man who stole the dolls unfortunately died under mysterious circumstances, and his relative who received the dolls became paralyzed shortly after receiving the dolls. 2 years later, the man and his wife was found dead. The Shadow Doll. The Shadow Doll was first owned by a couple that bought the doll at an antique store in the US. The first night after bringing the doll home, the couple had terrifying nightmares, and when they woke up, they had scratch marks all over their bodies. The following night, the couple once again had terrifying nightmares, and when they woke up, they had claw marks all over their bodies. The couple now understood that something was wrong, and they contacted Ed Warren, who came to the couple's house. Ed right away felt that the doll was evil, so he brought the doll with him home and placed it in the Occult Museum. According to Ed, the Shadow Doll is made of human and animal bones, and the doll was created to haunt people's dreams. In order to make the doll haunt a person's dreams, someone has to take a picture of it, write a cross on the back of the picture, and then send it to someone. After a person have received and seen the photo, so will the Shadow Doll haunt the person's dreams. And it is even said that the doll can be so terrifying that it can even kill the person by stopping their heart in their sleep. Ed has also said that the doll should not be destroyed, because if a person destroys the doll, the spirits within the doll will be freed, and they will haunt the person who destroyed the doll. The Conjuring Mirror. On a wall in the Occult Museum hangs a 5-foot-tall antique mirror, but this is no ordinary mirror. This mirror was once used to summon spirits to attack people. The mirror was first owned by a man named Stephen Selner, which lived in Pennsylvania, and he used the mirror to practice black magic. Stephen would use the mirror in a medieval ritual, and after perfecting the ritual, Stephen was able to see into the future, and he would eventually use the mirror to take revenge on people that he didn't like. In order to take revenge on the people that he didn't like, Stephen had to use the mirror to summon inhuman spirits to seek out his victims and attack them. But Stephen would eventually make a mistake that would make the evil spirits to attack and haunt him instead of his victims. Stephen would hear footsteps and heavy breathing in his house. Doors would open by themselves and objects would be thrown towards him. He even began to see a terrifying spirit that would wake him up in the middle of the night. After about a week, Stephen couldn't take it anymore, so he contacted the Catholic Church, begging them to help him get rid of the spirits. The church called Ed and Lorraine Warren and told them about Stephen. The Warrens later arrived at the house and they met a terrified Stephen, who begged them to make the spirits to go away. After entering the house, the Warrens saw how objects was thrown around and how doors were opening and closing by themselves. The spirits even parked Ed's car in the middle of the road, which blocked the traffic and made many people angry. In order to stop the activities in the house, Ed had to reverse the ritual that Stephen had performed, and after reversing the ritual, the activity stopped. Before leaving the house, Stephen asked the Warrens if they could take the mirror with them. The Warrens said yes and took the mirror to their house and placed it in the Occult Museum. Death Dolls. In the Occult Museum can you find 2 dolls that have been used in black magic. and these dolls are called death dolls. A death doll is created with the purpose to make a person sick and eventually die. The two dolls in the Occult Museum are made of different materials from their victims, such as their victims' hair and clothes. In order for a death doll to kill their victim, the doll has to be hung in a tree near the victim's house. The victim would then become sick and eventually die. The two dolls in the Occult Museum are over 100 years old, and they were at one point owned by a wealthy woman. The woman bought the two dolls in Florida and she brought them to her home in Connecticut. Almost right away, the woman noticed that there was something strange about the dolls. The dolls would disappear for days and then reappear somewhere else in the woman's house. The woman also began to have really bad luck, so she eventually gave away the dolls to Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine Warren brought the dolls to their home and placed them in the Occult Museum, where they can still be seen today. Annabelle the Haunted Doll. Annabelle the Haunted Doll is probably the most well-known object in the Occult Museum. According to Lorraine Warren, Annabelle is one of the most evil objects in the museum, and she doesn't even want to look at the doll. The story of Annabelle begins in the 1970s, when an older woman bought Annabelle in a thrift store for her daughter named Donna. Donna happily accepted Annabelle, and she brought Annabelle back to her apartment. A few days passed and everything seemed normal. But after a while, odd things started to happen. Annabelle would often be found in a different room than the one she was left in. Donna and her roommate Lou would also find small paper notes with childish handwriting on them that said, "Help us and help Lou." The two girls later contacted a psychic medium that told them that a young girl that had died in the apartment had possessed the doll. Annabelle apparently told the psychic that she liked the two college girls and that she wanted to stay with them. Donna and Lou said that Annabelle could stay with them. That was a big mistake. Granting the spirit permission to stay with them led to increased paranormal activity in the apartment. One night when a male friend was staying at the apartment, Annabelle apparently attacked the male friend, leaving vicious scratch marks all over his chest. The two college girls now understood that this couldn't be the spirit of a young girl, and they contacted Ed and Lorraine Warren. The two girls soon found out that Annabelle was not possessed by the spirit of a young girl, but by an evil demon who had pretended to be a young girl, used to get close to the girls with the intention to possess one of them. The girls gave Annabelle to the Warrens, who encased it in a glass display cabinet in the Occult Museum.